of stone stands deep inside an Indonesian cave, untouched for over 51,000 years. On its surface, a hand once pressed into wet pigment, and beside it, a scene no one expected to find, figures, movement, a story frozen in place before humans were supposed to be capable of telling one. No one knows who painted it. No one knows why it was hidden this well, this deep, for this long. Before we go further, if you haven't subscribed, do it now. Because what is buried across these islands doesn't just rewrite history, it questions how much of it we ever really understood. Indonesia sits where fire meets ocean, a chain of islands built on volcanoes, sealed by ash, and surrounded by water that keeps its secrets well. What has already surfaced here forced scientists to rewrite the story of human history once. What is coming next may force them to do it again. Number 10. The volcano that broke without warning in December 2018, the southern coastline of Indonesia went quiet in a way no one thought to fear. Krakatau, the restless child of the volcano that once reshaped world weather, had been rumbling for weeks. Scientists were watching the sky. They weren't watching the sea floor. Without a single warning tremor large enough to trigger an alarm, an entire flank of the volcano gave way beneath the waves. Tons of rock and ash slid into the ocean in seconds, and the water above it had nowhere to go but toward the coast. There was no earthquake, no siren, no time. The tsunami that followed killed hundreds of people who never saw it coming, because every system built to protect them was listening for the wrong signal. It forced scientists to admit something unsettling, that the ocean can turn deadly without the one warning sign we've always trusted to see at first. And if a volcano can do this once quietly without triggering a single alarm, the question isn't whether it could happen again. It is how many other slopes, around how many other islands, are already this close to giving way. Some of Indonesia's oldest secrets aren't buried in ash. They're buried at the bottom of the sea, and one of them had been waiting there for nearly 1,000 years. Number 9. The ship that shouldn't exist in 1998. A fisherman diving off the coast of Belitung Island found something wedged into the seabed that shouldn't have been there. Not driftwood, not coral, wood shaped by hands, held together by stitching instead of nails, buried under sediment for almost 1,000 years. What divers pulled from the wreck stopped historians cold. Tens of thousands of ceramics, gold and silver, cargo from Tang Dynasty China, loaded onto a ship built using construction methods from the Arabian Peninsula. Two civilizations separated by thousands of miles of open ocean, connected by a single vessel no record had ever mentioned. Nothing about this ship was supposed to exist. Not this early, not this far. Trade routes this direct, this established, weren't believed possible for centuries more. If you were standing on that seabed as the silt was cleared away, this is where the silence would feel wrong. Because for 1,000 years, the ocean had been hiding proof that the ancient world was far more connected than anyone dared assume. And if one forgotten ship could rewrite global trade history, it raises an uncomfortable question. How many more routes, how many more voyages vanished into these waters without leaving a single trace behind? Some discoveries rewrite what we know about trade, others rewrite what we know about ourselves, and the next one did exactly that. Number 8. The bones that rewrote humanity in 1891. On the banks of the Solo River in Java, a Dutch anatomist named Hugues Fanny Dubois uncovered something that didn't fit any known category: a skull cap, a femur. Bones that were neither fully ape nor fully human, but something caught between the two. He called it Pithecanthropus erectus. The world would later know it as Java Man. At the time, the idea was almost unthinkable. Darwin's theory was still young, still contested, and here was physical proof, buried in volcanic soil, on an island most of the world had never thought to look. A creature that walked upright, with a brain larger than any ape's, but smaller than modern man's. A missing piece slotted into a puzzle no one was certain existed. Scientists fought over those bones for decades. Some called it fraud. Some called it the most important fossil ever found. But as more evidence surfaced across Java in the years that followed, the truth became undeniable. Humanity's story didn't begin the way anyone had assumed, and it didn't begin where anyone expected either. If Java man walked this ground more than 1 million years ago, one question remained buried far longer than the bones themselves. What came before him, and how far back does this island story actually go? Because bones weren't the only thing this land preserved. Some of what Indonesia hid wasn't ancient extinction, it was ritual, and it never really ended. Number 7. The dead who never leave. High in the mountains of South Sulawesi, the Toraja people follow a tradition most of the world would find impossible to understand. When someone dies here, the funeral doesn't happen right away. Sometimes it doesn't happen for months, sometimes years. Until then, the body stays home, wrapped, preserved, treated not as a corpse, but as someone merely sick. Family members speak to them, bring them food, change their clothes. In the eyes of the Toraja, the deceased haven't truly left yet, they're simply waiting. And even after burial, the relationship doesn't end. Every few years, in a ritual called Manini, families return to the tombs, remove their loved ones' remains, clean them, dress them in fresh clothing, and walk them through the village one more time. To outsiders, it looks like defiance of death itself. To the Toraja, it is devotion, proof that love doesn't stop at a heartbeat. But it raises a question anthropologists still can't fully answer. In a world where nearly every culture rushes to bury its dead and move forward, why did this remote mountain community choose the opposite path? And what did they understand about death that the rest of us walked away from? Some traditions challenge how we see death. But deep in the highlands of West Java, one discovery challenged something even bigger: the entire timeline of human civilization. Number 6. The pyramid that wasn't supposed to exist in the hills of West Java sits a hill unlike any other, Gunung Padang. For generations, locals believed it was sacred. Scientists believed it was simply a hill, its surface scattered with ancient stone terraces built by hands long forgotten. Then, in 2012, a team of researchers began drilling beneath it, and what they found split the scientific world in 2 layers of soil. Deep underground appeared to show signs of construction, not nature. Radiocarbon dating on those layers produced numbers that seemed almost impossible, suggesting parts of the structure could be over 10,000 years old. Older than Stonehenge, older than the pyramids of Egypt, older, some claimed, than civilization itself was supposed to be. The theory spread fast. A lost, advanced culture buried beneath a hillside, erased from every history book ever written. But the scientific community pushed back just as hard. Critics argued the dating methods were flawed, the structures natural, the conclusions reaching far beyond the evidence. The claim was eventually rejected by mainstream archaeology, dismissed as pseudoscience dressed in real data. And yet, the hill is still there. The terraces are still unexplained. And the question that started it all was never fully answered, only silenced. Because if one mountain in Indonesia could spark this much controversy over what might be hidden beneath it, what happens when an entire mountain doesn't just hide history, but erases it completely? Number 5. The kingdom buried alive. In April 1815, Mount Tambora erupted with a force the modern world had never recorded. The explosion was heard over 1,000 miles away. Ash fell so thick and so far that it darkened skies on the other side of the planet, triggering what would later be called the year without a summer. Failed harvests, global famine, and death on a scale most of the world never connected back to this single mountain. But on the island itself, something far more immediate happened. An entire kingdom known as Tambora was buried alive. For nearly 2 centuries, it stayed that way, sealed beneath meters of volcanic ash, undisturbed, unrecorded, almost forgotten. Then, archaeologists began digging, and what they uncovered stopped them cold. Homes, bronze tools, ceramics, and the outline of a body curled protectively, buried exactly where it fell. Caught in the same instant the world around it went silent. They started calling it the Pompeii of the East, a civilization frozen mid-breath, preserved not by intention, but by catastrophe. If you were standing in that kingdom the moment the mountain gave way, this is where the silence would feel wrong, because there was no warning long enough to run, and no time left to understand what was happening before it was already over. An entire society, erased in hours, spent 200 years waiting to be found. Which forces an unsettling question forward. How many other villages, other kingdoms, other lives are still sealed beneath these islands, still waiting for someone to dig deep enough to find them? Because Tambora wasn't the only Indonesian eruption that reshaped the world. One event, far older, was once blamed for nearly ending humanity itself, and the truth about it is only now coming undone. Number 4. The eruption that almost ended us roughly 74,000 years ago, a volcano on the island of Sumatra, erupted with a force almost incomprehensible, the largest eruption the planet had seen in over 2 million years. Today, its crater has filled with water and become Lake Toba, calm, vast, and deceptively peaceful. But for decades, scientists believed this eruption nearly wiped humanity from existence. The theory was called the Toba catastrophe. Ash choked the atmosphere for years. Global temperatures dropped. Some researchers argued the human population collapsed to just a few thousand individuals, a bottleneck so severe that all of modern humanity descended from the handful who survived. It became one of the most repeated survival stories in human evolution. Humanity brought to the edge of extinction, clawing its way back from near total collapse. Except newer evidence is now challenging almost everything that theory was built on. Archaeological sites in Africa and India show continuous human activity before, during, and after the eruption. No dramatic population crash, no evidence of a species pushed to the brink. Which means one of two things. Either the eruption wasn't as catastrophic to human survival as believed, or the truth about what really happened to our ancestors 74,000 years ago is something we still haven't uncovered. And if scientists were wrong about something this significant, buried this deep in our own origin story, what else about early humanity has Indonesia been quietly getting wrong for decades? Because the next discovery didn't just question how we survived, it questioned when we became who we are. Number 3. The oldest story ever told deep inside a limestone cave on the island of Sulawesi. Researchers found a painting that shouldn't have been possible, faded red, ochre figures, part human, part animal, surrounding what appears to be a wild pig, frozen mid-hunt on a wall untouched for tens of thousands of years. When the dating results came back, they didn't just surprise scientists. They forced a complete rewrite of the timeline. At over 51,000 years old, this became the oldest known example of figurative art ever discovered, older than any cave painting in Europe, older than anything previously credited as the birthplace of storytelling. But it wasn't just old, it was structured. A scene, characters, action, not a single image, but a narrative, proof that early humans weren't just capable of art, they were capable of imagination, of myth, of telling stories about a world beyond the one directly in front of them. Which means somewhere in that cave, in the dark, by firelight, someone sat down with a purpose, not to survive the night, but to leave something behind for whoever came after them. The unsettling part isn't that they could do this, it is that they felt the need to. What were they trying to say? And why did it have to be hidden this deep, this far from anyone who might one day find it? Because storytelling wasn't the only ancient boundary Indonesia would help uncover. Somewhere across these islands lies a line in nature itself, one that scientists still can't fully explain. Number 2. The invisible wall. In the 1850s, naturalist Alfred Russel Wallace was studying wildlife across the Indonesian archipelago when he noticed something that didn't make sense. On one island, tigers, monkeys, and elephants. On the very next island, separated by barely 20 miles of open water, kangaroos, cockatoos, and marsupials found nowhere else nearby. There was no visible reason for the divide, no mountain range, no massive barrier, just open sea, and yet species on either side had evolved as if an invisible wall stood between them. He mapped it. It became known as the Wallace Line, and it split the region cleanly into two biological worlds. Asian species on one side, Australian species on the other, almost never crossing. The discovery helped found an entirely new field of science, biogeography, the study of why life exists where it does. It proved that the movement of species across the planet wasn't random. It was shaped by forces far older, far deeper than anyone had considered. But even now, over a century later, scientists still don't have a complete answer for why the line is this sharp, this defined, in a place where the water is narrow enough to swim. If nature itself drew a boundary this precise, without explanation, then Indonesia isn't just a place where history was buried. It is a place where the rules of the natural world seem to bend, and no one has ever fully explained why. And on one side of that ancient boundary, one final discovery was waiting, proof that we were never as alone on this planet as we believed. Number 1. The most disturbing discovery in 2003, on the remote island of Flores, archaeologists digging inside Liang Bua cave uncovered a skeleton that made no sense. An adult, fully grown, standing barely 3 feet tall. A skull far smaller than any modern humans, yet shaped with clear signs of tool use, control of fire, coordinated hunting. At first, some assumed it was a child or a person with a growth disorder, but as more remains surfaced, the truth became impossible to deny. This wasn't an anomaly. It was a separate species entirely. They called it Homo floresiensis. The world called it the Hobbit. And the most disturbing part wasn't its size. It was the timeline. Dating placed these remains at just 50,000 years old, meaning this species wasn't some distant ancestor lost in deep prehistory. It was alive at the same time modern humans were already spreading across the region. We weren't the only humans left on Earth. Not even close to it. Local legend on Flores had spoken for generations of small, hairy forest people called the Ibu Gogo. Stories dismissed for decades as folklore. Suddenly, they didn't sound like folklore anymore. No one knows how long Homo floresiensis actually survived. No one knows whether they ever encountered modern humans directly, and if they did, what happened in that meeting. The cave has offered bones. It has not offered answers. Somewhere on that island, a species that shouldn't have existed this recently simply disappeared, and the reason why remains one of the last true mysteries of human history. 10 discoveries, volcanoes, ships, bones, and boundaries. Each one pulled from the ground, only after the Earth decided to let it go. Indonesia hasn't finished revealing what it is hiding. Somewhere beneath the ash, the jungle, or the sea, the next impossible discovery is already waiting. It always was.